أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. We have left a few ayat from Surat Al-Aala from the end, inshallah. So this is the intention for today, inshallah, to complete the tafsir of Surat Al-Aala with the remaining ayat. If I remember correctly, فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى, we talked about this ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the Prophet ﷺ to remind. فذكر, يعني remind the people with the dhikr. And what is the dhikr? الذكر, if it comes with al-ta'rif, with alif lam in the Quran, it means the Quran. The word dhikr, when it comes in the Quran with alif lam, which is used for ta'rif, we call it al-ta'rif, right? The al that makes the noun a definite noun, right? The meaning of al-dhikr, whenever it comes in the Quran with al-ta'rif, is al-Quran. صاد والقرآن ذي الذكر. Al-dhikr means the Quran. فذكر, يعني remind the people with the Quran. Remind the people with the Quran. إن نفعت الذكرى, we said that the meaning of that is that the reminder will not benefit everyone. People will be divided into two categories. Some people will be benefiting from the dhikra, and some people will not be benefiting from the dhikra, right? However, the mission of the Prophet ﷺ is to remind. That is his job, right? His job is to remind the people, right, with the Quran, with the message of Islam, in the best and the most appealing way, right? That is the mission. Whether they accept it or not, that is not his responsibility. And this goes for us as Muslims. Our mission is to carry the da'wah, to carry the message, right? To remind people with the message in the most appealing way, right? The most kind, the most appealing way. Engage them with rational discussions, right? Show them the greatness of the deen, right? Show them by example, being role models, right? That is our mission, and that was the mission of the Prophet ﷺ. If they accept the deen, that is their choice. If they do not accept it, that is also their choice, right? And our mission ends like at that point, right? فَذَكِّرْ إِن نَفَعَتِ الذِّكْرَى. The other point that this ayah brings forward is to choose the appropriate time for reminder. That is the wisdom. That has to do with the wisdom of the da'iyah. If someone, for example, is enraged by something, right? You do not approach him at that point when he is in his rage to remind him, because he's not going to be listening, right? First thing that you want to do is to calm him and then choose another appropriate time to remind him, right? Because if someone is enraged about someone else, with someone else, he's in his rage, he's not going to be listening. This is not the appropriate time to approach him, to advise him. Let him calm down, right? And then choose another time when he's calmed down, then you can approach him with the reminder, with the nasiha, with the tadhkirah. So this is another fa'idah we get from this ayah. فَذَكِّرْ إِن نَفَعَتِ الذِّكْرَى. And we talked about that, of course. This is just a review. We talked about that last time, this ayah. سَيَذَّكَّرُ مَنْ يَخْشَى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then describes to us who is the person who is going to be benefiting, from the dhikra, and who's the person who is not going to be benefiting from the dhikra. Right? سَيَذَّكَّرْ, يعني the person who is going to be benefiting from the dhikra is the person who has khashya in his heart. And we explained khashya and we differentiated between khashya and khawf. Khawf and khashya, there's a difference between them. Khawf, it could be some people might be afraid of something that is real or something that is unreal. That is called khawf, right? For example, generally people are afraid from the graveyard during the night. Is this khawf real? Are they afraid of something that is real? They think that this is a place that is inhabited by ghosts and etc., right? So people usually are afraid to go to the graveyard during the night time. But that khawf is imaginary. It's not real. And we said last time that dead people are more peaceful than the living. You should be afraid of the living ones, not the dead ones, right? So, but people have built this in their imagination, because of so many factors like movies and things, books that they have read that, the graveyard is, inhabited by ghosts. And so this is called khawf. Khawf could be of something that is real and something that is a figment of your imagination. Like the boogeyman, for example. People, children, boogeyman. There's no such thing, right? Khashya is very different. Khashya, you are conscious of something that is real. You know that it is based on ilm. So when you have khashya from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is real. This is very real, right? It means that you know for sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who is capable of resurrecting you, holding you accountable for your deeds, right? He's the one who has the power over everything, right? So this khawf is real. Secondly, al-khashya is usually accompanied by reverence. It is based on respect and reverence. Because you might have khawf from someone because he's a tyrant. He will kill you, right? But you do not respect him. You do not have any reverence for him, right? This is not called khashya. Usually khashya is based on ilm, on absolute knowledge of the one whom you fear, right? And his abilities, what he's capable of. And it is usually associated with, or usually mixed with reverence. This is called khashya. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here that the person who will benefit from the tadhkirah is the person who has khashya in his heart. سَيَذَّكَّرُ مَن يَخْشَى. Right? And on the other side, وَيَتَجَنَّبُهَا الْأَشْقَى. Of course, there are different stages in between. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here describes for us two extremes. And there are many different stages in between, right? سَيَذَّكَّرُ مَن يَخْشَى, the person who has khashya in his heart will remember. And there is another category of people who will turn away from tadhkirah completely. They will not benefit from tadhkirah whatsoever. يتجنبها يعني when you want to avoid someone, right? Someone is approaching you to talk to you. When you want to avoid him, you do not want to engage with him, you give him your side, right? You turn away from him. That is called tajannub. Tajannub. Because this is the side of a person is called jamb in the Arabic. The side is called jamb. When you give someone your jamb, it means you are avoiding him. You do not want to listen to him, right? Whatever he says, right? Turning your back, this is complete tajannub. This is disrespect also. That you do not care whatsoever. Tawalli al-adbar. So at tajannub, it means, this is a gesture that we make when we are afraid of someone. We just do this, right? We give our side. We show him our side. This is called tajannub. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is giving us two extremes. سَيَذَّكَّرُ مَن يَخْشَى, this is the person who immediately will benefit from tadhkirah. وَيَتَجَنَّبُهَا الْأَشْقَى, this is the person who does not benefit whatsoever from the tadhkirah. Al-ashqa in the Arabic language, by the way, the form أفعل in the Arabic language indicates tafdeel. Al-ashqa يعني the most wretched person, the most rich, the most hapless rich, the one that has no hope about him. That is al-ashqa. Al-ashqa. Like when you say fulan huwa al-ajmal, he's the most beautiful. Al-af'al in the Arabic language indicates what? Preference. Right? Ajmal, aqra, yani he is the most established reader, right? Ajmal, he's the most beautiful, right? Al-ashqa, he is the most hapless rich. Like Abu Jahl, like Abu Lahab, like Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira. These are the hopeless cases, right? And in between there are many categories, right? There are people who might not be reminded from the first time, but then their hearts will become softer, right? And they will be more inclined. So there are degrees. That's why the Jannat has levels, And the hellfire has levels in it too. So Al-Ashqa here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about him that الَّذِي يَصْلَ النَّارَ الْكُبْرَى. You see? Because a nar itself is not one level. The punishment in the hellfire is not just one level of punishment. There are different levels, and they are called darakat. Darakat. When you go up, you say darajat. When you go down, you say darakat. See the difference? Darajat, and you are stepping up to a higher place, called darajat. Darakat, yani someone is going down to a lower place. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about al-munafiqeen, إِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ فِي الدَّرْكِ الْأَسْفَلِ مِنَ النَّارِ. Yani the most severe punishment in the hellfire is reserved for whom? Al-munafiqeen. في الدَّرْكِ الْأَسْفَلِ مِنَ النَّارِ. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about al-ashqa, right? وَيَتَجَنَّبُهَا الْأَشْقَى الَّذِي يَصْلَ النَّارَ الْكُبْرَى. He will be seared in the grand fire. Not any fire, in the grand fire, right? That is al-ashqa. And this is telling us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us the two extremes here. The first extreme is the person whom accepts the hidayah and benefit from it immediately. And the other extreme is the person who avoids the hidayah completely and he does not want to listen. His heart has been sealed, his mind has been sealed, and this is al-ashqa. And al-ashqa here is the one who is deserving of being burned, right, in the grand fire. الذي يصل النار الكبرى. There is another surah, which is Surat وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا تَجَلَّى وَمَا خَلَقَ الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنثَى إِنَّ سَعْيَكُمْ لَشَتَّى فَأَمَّا مَنْ أَعْطَى وَاتَّقَى وَصَدَّقَ بِالْحُسْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْيُسْرَى وَأَمَّا مَنْ بَخِلَ وَاسْتَغْنَى وَكَذَّبَ بِالْحُسْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْعُسْرَى وَمَا يُغْنِي عَنْهُ مَالُهُ إِذَا تَرَدَّى إِنَّ عَلَيْنَا لَلْهُدَى وَإِنَّ لَنَا الْآخِرَةَ وَالْأُولَى فَأَنذَرْتُكُمْ نَارًا تَلَظَّى لَا يَصْلَاهَا إِلَّا الْأَشْقَى الَّذِي كَذَّبَ وَتَوَلَّى. So al-ashqa فَأَنذَرْتُكُمْ نَارًا تَلَظَّى. That is a nar al-kubra. Al-ashqa there is al-ashqa here, right? النار التي تلظى, this is like the fire that is blazing, that is burning hot. تلظى لا يصلاها إلا الأشقى. Notice, لا يصلاها إلا الأشقى. This is a construct in the Arabic language. When I say لا يدخل المسجد إلا فلان, يعني I'm restricting and limiting the entrance of the masjid to this person at this time, for example, right? لا يصلاها إلا الأشقى, يعني this special grand fire that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us here about is prepared only to one category of people. Al-ashqa is prepared for one category of people this category is described by al-ashqa. This is the most severe. The most severe. These are the people who do not have any inclination in their hearts or in their mind to open up for the da'wah and listen to reason. Khalas. They sealed their hearts, they sealed their minds completely. This is al-ashqa. So al-ashqa is not the one who is miserable in the dunya because he's poor or because of the shortage of his, rizq, or no. He could be the most happy person. Al-ashqa is the person who loses when it matters.
Okay.
No.
When the heart is sealed.
Yes. Yes. That's al-ashqa.
40 years old, for example.
Yeah.
Is a possibility there might be 50, 60, 70 years old, that lock is open, he come back?
Sure.
It's possible, right?
It's possible. It's possible. Everything is possible. The thing that is impossible. Why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seal the heart for certain people? Because of their attitude. Right? So we talked about al-hidayah, the two types of hidayah last time. Right? There are two types of hidayah. Hidayah is always open to everyone, right? Except, there are exceptions. Those who choose to seal their hearts and minds and they go farther and farther away from the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by their choice, right? They do not want to listen. They are so defiant. They are so arrogant, right? Those, at one point in time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seal their hearts. But there are people whom, their hearts are still open. They have been busy with other meaningless things for a long time, right? The time was not right. Maybe they were not approached by the right people to remind them, right? But it does not mean that the door is closed for them, right? The door stays open. The door closes for a certain group of people, which is the people who have chosen, insisted upon, and chosen by their own choice to be defiant and arrogant. They do not want to listen, right? Like Abu Jahl. And Abu Jahl, he knew that the Prophet ﷺ is telling the truth. Fir'aun, he knew that Musa ﷺ was telling the truth, right? وَجَحَدُوا بِهَا وَاسْتَيْقَنَتْهَا أَنفُسُهُمْ ظُلْمًا وَعُلُوًّا. They rejected the signs that Musa brought to them, but deep in their hearts, they believed firmly that he is telling them the truth. But what prevented them from accepting the truth is their arrogance and defiance. Those people, at one point in time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَطُبِعَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ, He will seal their hearts, right? And they will not be, at that point in time, they will not be amenable to any sort of hidayah. Khalas. That's it for them, right? Their faith has been sealed because of their choices, not because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed since eternity that He is going to target this person when, to seal his heart. No, because this person was given the option, the hidayah was presented to him, he recognized that this is the hidayah, he recognized that this is the way of the truth, and yet, because of his attitude, because of his defiance, because of his arrogance, he chose not to follow it. And he insisted upon that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deprives him at that point from hidayah al-tawfiq, the hidayah of bringing him back to the right path. وَيَتَجَنَّبُهَا الْأَشْقَى. إذن في هناك الأشقى also in Surat Al-Layl. We'll come to Surat Al-Layl later on, inshallah. الأشقى الذي يصل النار الكبرى. Right? And there are levels in between. Right? So for example, the usa from the mu'mineen. The usa, those who are mu'mins, they say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. They mixed up righteous deeds with bad deeds, right? And after their hisab and the shafa'ah, they had something still remaining in their bad list, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses to He might choose to give them some sort of punishment, right? Those will not be punished in the Nar Kubra, for sure, right? So the punish. Don't think that hellfire or Jahannam is one level of punishment. There are different levels. And the hadith of Abu Talib that that the Prophet ﷺ, hadith in Sahih Muslim, that he interceded on behalf. He interceded on behalf of his uncle Abu Talib because he used to protect him. Jazakumullah khair, barakallah feekum. You troubled yourself. Allah bless you. Jazakumullah khair. He interceded on his behalf so that he saved him from really severe punishment to a light punishment in Jahannam. This hadith, by the way, I personally have some issues with the hadith, but this is not the time. We mentioned some of those before, those issues. Whether Abu Talib was actually he followed the Prophet ﷺ or not, the vast majority of the scholars of Islam, they say that Abu Talib, he died on the state of shirk, right? He rejected the message, but there is a minority opinion that Abu Talib actually accepted the da'wah, and he kept his iman secret in order for him to continue to be able to continue to defend the Prophet ﷺ, like the believer of Al-Fir'aun in Surat Ghafir, like the believer of Al-Fir'aun. We talked about that before. Well, so he figured out that if he proclaimed his iman openly, then he will lose some of the leverage that he had defending the da'wah and defending the Prophet ﷺ, right? Like the mu'min of Al-Fir'aun. وَقَالَ رَجُلٌ مُؤْمِنٌ مِنْ آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ يَكْتُمُ إِيمَانَهُ أَتَقْتُلُونَ رَجُلًا أَن يَقُولَ رَبِّيَ اللَّهُ. They did not know, and he did not show them, right? He was defending Musa alayhi salam based on a rational basis. What is he saying so that you have this enmity toward him? He's just arguing with you logically, right? He chose to say, and he has an argument, big argument. He brought you all sorts of miracles and he shows you all sorts of signs, right? So he was trying to reason with his people, right? Intellectually, you know. But he was mu'min, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that, and Abu Talib, by the way, was one of the, not one, more than one, as a matter of fact, two of the very famous poems that are very prolific and very, eloquent. He said, praising his nephew, alayhi salatu wassalam. وَأَبْيَضُ يُسْتَسْقَى الْغَمَامُ بِوَجْهِهِ. This is a famous, they say about this poem that not even the famous 7 poems that were hanging on the Kaaba reach the eloquence of this poem that Abu Talib said, praising his nephew alayhi salatu wassalam and the da'wah and the deen of his nephew. And he said, وَلَقَدْ عَلِمْتُ بِأَنَّ دِينَ مُحَمَّدٍ مِنْ خَيْرِ أَدْيَانِ الْبَرِيَّةِ دِينًا. I have known that the deen of Muhammad is the best deen that this humanity has known. That's Abu Talib. That's Abu Talib. So that to me is a strong opinion. To me. And the other fact that makes it a strong opinion is can we believe that Abu Talib was deserving what he's deserving, and the Prophet ﷺ he helped him, he interceded on his behalf to take him from the depth of the nar to a lighter punishment. Something like that could be interpreted as what? Favoritism. Why Abu Talib? Right? If he died in the state of shirk and he was deserving of this punishment, and the intercession of the Prophet ﷺ does not apply to the mushrikeen, right? It applies only to the believers, right? So there is some issues with this hadith. And by the way, Banu Umayyah, and we are kind of like getting away from the subject here, but Banu Umayyah had their influence. Banu Umayyah had their influence upon some of the muhaddithin. Banu Umayyah had their influence on some of the muhaddithin, but this is a different subject, right? طيب. ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا. ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا. This expression was repeated also in a different place in the Quran. إنه من يأتي ربه مجرما في سورة طه فإن له جهنم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا. إنه من يأتي ربه مجرما فإن له جهنم. The one who comes to his Lord as a mujrim. Mujrim is another definition for al-ashqa. Is a person who commits the most hideous atrocities in the dunya. That is called mujrim. Like Abu Jahl, like Fir'aun, like Stalin, for example. Stalin killed 5 million people. Stalin, who used to be, a Russian or the Soviet Union president, he killed 5 million people. He used to kill people based on suspicion. If he suspects the slightest suspicion of a person, he will kill him. Millions of people he killed. So these are the criminals, right? إِنَّهُ مَن يَأْتِ رَبَّهُ مُجْرِمًا. The person who comes in the day of judgment to his Lord as a criminal like those, فَإِنَّ لَهُ جَهَنَّمْ لَا يَمُوتُ فِيهَا وَلَا يَحْيَا. Here الأشقى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا. لا يموت. Now, if someone is burned in the fire, at one point in time he will lose. The nerves will be damaged, right? The nerves that conduct the pain. The pain is conducted to the brain by the nerves. That's why if someone is giving anesthesia, right? What happens to him? The lines of communications, they will be numbed, right? So they can do whatever they want to do to his body. He does not feel the pain, right? And of course, the pain in the burning pain is in the skin. The nerves that conduct that pain is in the skin, right? At one point in time, the body shuts down. The human body can endure a certain level of pain and then shuts down. The person faints, right? Or if the skin gets burned and the nerves under the skin that conduct the pain get burned, خلاص, shuts down. But this is not the case with the and people after they get severely burned, they died, right? And death will be a mercy to such people, right? This is not the case where for al-ashqa in the hellfire. لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا. يعني he's going to be severely tortured, but he will never die. يعني he will continue to be living to suffer the pain. But that life is meaningless because شو معنى الحياة? What is when you say this person is living, is truly living? What is the meaning of life? The meaning of life that he is living, a comfortable life that is free of pain, quality life, right? So this person, he will never reach this stage of death, and he will continue to suffer, right? And he's alive, but that life is a life of misery and pain, right? So he's neither alive nor he is dead. لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا. لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا. We talked about this before, but I'll remind you. What is al-haya? What is the difference between al-haya and al-ruh? Al-haya and al-ruh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala differentiated between al-haya and al-ruh. Notice that the fetus in the womb of his mother, right? He started growing, right? He starts growing before the ruh is injected in his body, right? So al-haya could be a vegetarian life, like a plant, for example. A plant, if you put in the seed, the plant starts to grow. So a manifestation of life is growth and reproduction. Any system, any being that grows and reproduces is alive. Any creation that is growing, that grows and reproduces is alive, right? And so the fetus in the womb of his mother, right? He grows, and his cells multiply, right? Even before the ruh is injected, and according to the scholars of Islam, the ruh is injected which day? The 120th, according to the vast majority. Yani after how many months? 4 months. The ruh is injected. So for 4 months, that fetus is growing, which means does he have life in him or not? Life is there. And toward the end, right, when the ruh depart, we can keep the human being. We can use machines, right, and we keep pumping life into him, right? Put him on the life support system, right? And his hair will continue to grow. His nails will continue to grow. Does this mean that he has life in him? Yes. But is he alive in the meaning of when the ruh has departed from the body? Khalas. It cannot. The body is dead in the sense that it cannot sustain itself on its own. Khalas. When the ruh departs, al-maut is when the ruh departs from the body. But al-haya of the human being does not necessarily start when the ruh enters the body. The haya itself, which is growth and reproduction, right, does not start when the ruh immediate. It starts before that. The fetus has to be prepared for a while, so he has growth, and then the ruh is injected and the ruh departs at one point in time when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that's it, this is the term, right? The ruh departs. And when the ruh departs, khalas, the person is dead. Dead, it means that his ruh has departed. We can keep him on a life support system. We can keep pumping oxygen in him, and we can keep him for years, right? Like that, right? And you'll see manifestation of growth on him. But is he alive? The answer is no, because the ruh has departed. Once the ruh has departed, خلاص انتهى. Yes.
90 days pregnancy. 90 days. Is the flesh, right? Is a piece of no root there.
Yes.
And that body of that mother, the baby is dying. We have a lot of things here.
Yeah.
A lot of discussion.
Yeah. No, so the answer to that, the fuqaha actually, they talked about this matter. The fuqaha discussed this matter. They say, if the fetus died before 120 days, right, which is the time when the ruh is injected, khalas, you do not treat him as, because he's not a person yet. The person is composed of the body and the ruh. And the most important part of the human being is the ruh, by the way. The ruh is the entity in your body that comprehends. The ruh is the entity in your body that thinks. The ruh is the entity in your body that rationalizes, that feels, right? The thinking process in the human being is still a mystery, because they are looking for a materialistic aspect of it. The ulama, the scientists, when they look for something in the human being, they look for it materialistically. How does the thinking process happen? No one knows. They speculate. No one knows. Because the entity in our bodies, right, that actually comprehend, that thinks, that feels, is what? A ruh. And that's why you'll find a human being fully functional. He's thinking, one second, he shuts down completely. Khalas. Why? The ruh has departed. He became like an empty shell. Because the entity in him that was the comprehending, the rationalizing, the thinking, the feeling entity in him has departed. So we have to differentiate between al-ruh and al-haya. Al-ruh and al-haya. And the entity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala holds accountable in the day of judgment is the ruh. Gets back into the body, of course, but the body is just a physical empty shell without the ruh. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala joins back al-arwah with their bodies, right? Rebuilds the bodies and join the arwah, join back the bodies. But the entity that comprehends and feels and thinks is the ruh. وَيَسْأَلُونَ. But what is that ruh? What is the reality of that ruh? That entity, we do not know. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. Yes.
I don't want to divert the attention and all take this topic away. But why Allah is saying, La yamutu wa la yahya?
Yes. لا يموت ولا يحيى يعني the adhab is eternal, right? And his life, although he does not reach the stage of death, his life is a life of pain and misery, so it does not count to be called a life, right? If someone is living, even in this dunya, if he's living a continuous life, okay, of pain and misery, would you call him? We might call him living, a living person, but in reality, right? What kind of life this is, right? I mean, this is, if he's dead, it will be better for him, right? So لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا, because al-haya, when you talk about this person is alive or lively, right? The meaning that comes to your mind is that he's enjoying his life. There are certain moments of difficulties, etc., but mainly, right, he's living a comfortable, quality life. But if his life is continuous misery, continuous pain, right, continuous punishment, right, then what kind of life is this? So this figure, it's a figure of speech. It's idiomatic for saying that, in order for the suffering to continue, he does not reach the stage of death. So he continues to be alive. But what sort of life this is? This life does not count as a life, right? Because it's a life of continuous pain. لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا. This is for Al-Ashqa. This is for Al-Ashqa, not specifically. This is the grand fire. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the grand fire that was specifically prepared for whom? For Al-Ashqa. It does not apply to everyone, by the way. That sort of punishment. Yes.
Well understood. The suffering is going to be here 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, and plus.
Yes.
But this, in the Mawdu, is in a hellfire.
This is continuous.
Hellfire are two different places.
Yes. This is continuous. Al-Ashqa.
We had a discussion with Anwar Sahib and also we were just talking yesterday. When the ruh departs, the body shall be buried the body.
Yes.
Some people cremate the body.
Yes.
Does that body feel?
No.
Because
No.
I had one incident where there were graves of being and they were burying them and then slab fell down, broke apart and fell on the body.
No, the body does not feel the reason that it is out of respect. We need to, the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us how to treat the body, the human body, because it is to be respected. It is to be respected. So although it does not feel pain, the entity that feels has departed, which is a ruh, has departed from the body. So the body itself does not feel, has no feeling, no emotion whatsoever, nothing like that, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us yet is to treat that body with respect. It's the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So that's why the sharia ordered us to wash the body, to shroud the body, to pray salatul janazah on the body, right? And when we make the dua, by the way, we do not make the dua for the empty shell that is in front of us. We make the dua for the ruh that used to occupy that shell. Because this is what is going to be held accountable in the day of judgment is the ruh after it joins the body again. The ruh after it joins the body again, right? And that's why the scholars of Islam, even on the issue of adhab al-qabr, the punishment in the grave, they debated whether this punishment, is it on the ruh on its own, or does actually the ruh join the body in the grave or not? A group of the scholars of Islam say that adhab al-qabr is only on the ruh, because after the ruh departs from the body, قالوا ربنا أمتنا أحييتنا اثنتين وأمتنا اثنتين. The human being is granted life twice and he dies only twice. He was dead before he was born and before the ruh was injected on him, and he will die another time when? At the end of his lifetime, 2 times. So every human being dies twice and lives twice. The first life is granted to him when he's born, and the second life is when he is resurrected in the day of judgment.
That is the other second question which I had in it, because the because the life which was given,
A ruh was created at a point in time we do not know when. When the ruh joins the body, that's a different matter. A ruh, when did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created my ruh and your ruh? Right? We do not know. It's in the ilm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A ruh was created at some point in time that we do not know. Right? So we do not know. Now, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الروح, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called الروح Jibreel alayhi salam, right? And Maryam alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَأَرْسَلْنَا إِلَيْهَا روحنا فأرسلنا إليها روحنا فتمثل لها بشرا سويا. Most of the Mufassirin said الروح wa Jibreel. Jibreel is the angel that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to Maryam. So Jibreel could be the source of the arwah. The source, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the arwah, they are manifested, or they are collected in Jibreel alayhi salam. So الروح, Jibreel, the mission of Jibreel alayhi salam is for sure that he is the one who brings the wahi, and could be because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called him ar-ruh, So the ruh of every human being is taken from the ruh that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, right? Which is ar-ruh, the entity that is called ar-ruh. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ فَأَرْسَلْنَا إِلَيْهَا رُوحَنَا فَتَمَثَّلَ لَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا. But the point here is that during the grave, during the life, during the person being in the grave, when the punishment of the grave is inflicted on those who deserve it, right? Is that punished? Does actually the ruh at that point in time join the body? And the body, is brought to life to experience the punishment of the grave. Some of the scholars of Islam say that. I personally go with the other group, that the punishment of the grave is actually on the ruh on its own. And the ruh joins the body only when the person is resurrected in the day of judgment, not before that. So what we know about the punishment of the grave, this punishment is inflicted on the ruh, on its own. And after all, the ruh is the feeling entity, right? Yes.
We go to the graveyard and we remind the person of that who's your Rabb and who's your.
To the ruh.
So who is right there in the
The ruh, yes, there is a connection. There is a connection that continues to the day of judgment between the place of burial and the ruh. Lines of communications are open. Not only when you bury the person, at any point in time that you visit a graveyard and you say Assalamu alaikum, you read the salam, he will answer you. Because there is like open lines of communication.
So there's no fear to go to the night time if you have a chance to go and pray for your loved one, right? There's no scare, right?
Of course not, no.
I mean, if you
No,
graveyard
yeah.
after Maghrib and Isha, this is your time.
Yes.
So there's no scare over there.
No, nothing scary about the graveyards. This is also in the imagination of people because of all these like horror movies and things, that people see, in the cinema. Now, so we understand the meaning ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيى. So it's a punishment that is eternal suffering, and this is only for whom? Al-ashqa. So we should not generalize this sort of punishment. This is الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى والذين كفروا لهم نار جهنم لا يقضى عليهم فيموتوا ولا يخفف عنهم من عذابها. Surah Al-Rum again. These ayat are all talking about a special category of people, not everyone, right? Because depending on, as we said, the punishment in the hellfire, there are levels. It's not all the same level of punishment. In the same way that the reward in the Jannah is also ranks and degrees and levels, right? It's not the same for everyone, right? So we should not, whenever we read an ayah of the Quran, we should about the punishment in the hellfire, we should not generalize it to everyone that they are going to be receiving the same level of punishment. That is very important to understand. نعم. ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيى. نعم. قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى. What is تزكى? What is تزكية? تزكية, it's to pure and to cleanse your soul from all negative, practices, habits, ideas, creeds. That purification process is called tazkiyah. Once a person performs tazkiyah, all the positive aspects in his soul are brought forward. If you do not have tazkiyah, the positive aspects in your soul will remain quenched, right? So that's why they always say التزكية قبل التحلية. يعني the first step that a person should start with, if a person is doing good things, right, before avoiding bad deeds or bad things, he should rethink that process. The first thing that you want to do is to cleanse yourself from all the bad things. Then you start doing the good things. You see? Because if the nafs is not cleansed of the bad things, right, the nafs will continue to be covered with a grimy shell, right, that will prevent that nafs from, elevating itself, right? We find many people, for example, they come to the salah every time, they give zakah, but watch their attitude, watch their behavior, live with them a few days, right? And you will be stunned by their behavior, right? They are in the masajid all the time. They give zakah. They have siyam Ramadan, right? But what is their problem? What is their problem is that, they do these good deeds, but they did not start with tazkiyat al-nafs. So the purification of the nafs, the cleansing of the soul should be the first step. Every ibadah, in order for it to be accepted, right, it has to be done with a sincere niyyah, right? Having a sincere niyyah is part of cleansing the nafs, right? Because part of cleansing the nafs is tawheed. Every righteous deed that you do, right, is intended to please whom? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is devoted for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? All sort of hatred, bad feelings, all sorts of, creeds that are not compatible with the aqidah of Islam, right? All these have to be cleansed, has to be taken away from the nafs, right? This is called tazkiyah. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى. Notice, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started with قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى. He's telling us that the first step of success, what is al-falah? Al-falah is success in the hereafter. Success to achieve. أفلح يعني he achieves success in the hereafter. Who is that person who would achieve success in the hereafter? The first condition, the first requirement is التزكي. التزكية. قد أفلح من تزكى. Start with eliminating bad things before you start good things. Tazkiyah, and then, right? The other thing that we observe is that after the tazkiyah, all the positive energy that is inside the human being will come out. What suppresses that positive energy from manifesting itself and showing itself are all the bad feelings, the bad things, the bad habits, the bad practices, the bad thoughts, right, that you have in your nafs. These will suppress you. All the positive energy that is stored in you does not come out, right? In order for that energy to come out and for your deeds to start having meanings and having, impact, and, you have to eliminate all the, Yes, yeah. So that's why the ayat start with the tazkiyah. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى وَذَكَرَ اسْمَ رَبِّهِ فَصَلَّى. So this person, he had tazkiyah first, and then he recognized the greatness of his Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is conscientious of his Lord, right? Al-Aala, which is the surah, right? He knows the attributes of his Lord, right? He knows and he has reverence for his Lord, the cherisher, the sustainer, the one who gives life, the one who takes life, the one who gives hidayah, the one who takes hidayah, right? He's aware of all that, right? And he remembers that all the time. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى وَذَكَرَ اسْمَ رَبِّهِ فَصَلَّى. Why is salah especially here? Because a salah is the connection between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the Arabic language, we say salah, we say sila. What is sila? Sila. Connection. As-salah and as-sila, they have all sorts of relationship, right? Called as-salah. As-salah. They say as-salah originally in the Arabic language means dua. Dua, right? So as-salah, the way that we know it today, when you say salli, or our minds go to the usual meaning, which is the usual 5 prayers, right? But as-salah in the language means ad-du'a. Why? Because ad-du'a is the connection that you have. Why do you supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You are trying to strengthen and fortify and maintain that connection, that connectivity that you have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you see the word sila, the word salah, sila, salah, it's that maintained connectivity, maintained connection, remaining conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After you have purified your soul and after you have recognized, And after you have known Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His greatness, in His great attributes, in His, rizq, and His ni'mah upon you, right? You have reverence, you have khashiyah from Him, right? And then the third step is as-salah. You maintain your connectivity with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these three steps, tazkiyah, knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, maintaining your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the doorway to al-falah, to success. This is the doorway to success. You notice how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala summarized this to us in a few words. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى وَذَكَرَ اسْمَ رَبِّهِ فَصَلَّى. نعم. بَلْ تُؤْثِرُونَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. What prevents people from following this recipe? What keeps people back? The next ayah tells us, right? Why, if it is that simple, tazkiyah, knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, maintaining your connectivity with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it's that simple, what keeps many people from taking, it's the next ayah tells us, بَلْ تُؤْثِرُونَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيا. Your problem is not that this deen is clear, that reaching success is in the hand of everyone, is within the ability of everyone. This is not the problem. The problem is the attitude of the human being. Because the human being, his attitude, he has very short sight. He's short-sighted. He is short-sighted, right? He does not have the foresight, right? Short-sighted. He wants to indulge himself in to reap the pleasures of something that is close to him, which is al-hayat dunya, right? So the human being prefers آثر يؤثر. It means to prefer something over something else. If you are given the choice between two things and you choose one of them, we say آثرت هذا الشيء. Or if you offer the choice between the companionship of one person over another person and you choose one of them, we say آثرت فلانا على فلان. آثرت يعني you chose him, you preferred him over the other person. بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا يعني you are short-sighted. You prefer the pleasures of this low life, الحياة الدنيا, over the akhirah. And this is what's keeping you from following the recipe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So بل in the Arabic language تفيد الإضراب. الإضراب يعني to strike out something and to say something new. And when you use bel with nouns, this is a nugget in the Arabic language. When you use bel with noun, when you say جاء محمد بل أحمد. جاء Muhammad, you thought that the person who's coming is Muhammad, and then you realize after you saw him that it wasn't Muhammad, it was Ahmad. So you want to change your statement. So you want to strike out the first statement and replace it by the second. So you say bel. جاء محمد, and then you realize that the person who is coming is not Muhammad but Ahmad. So what do you say? جاء محمد بل أحمد. بل here تفيد الإضراب. الإضراب, it means to strike out a previous speech and replace it, or strike out the previous sentence and replace it with a new correct sentence. You realize that the first sentence was incorrect, so you want to correct yourself, right? So here, someone might say, قد أفلح من تزكى يا رب. So this is easy. Why don't people, follow this and achieve success? Bel, nay. There's a reason that not all people actually are successful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that, right? Which is what? That many people, they favor and prefer, the pleasures of this worldly life over following the way that will lead them to success in the hereafter. Although following that way might actually require from them to to abandon some of the worldly pleasures, to be more preservative, more conservative on certain aspects, right? But the human being, by his nature, he wants to reap, right, everything that is like low-hanging fruits. In his mind, these are what we call the low-hanging fruits, right? This is what he goes after, and he forgets. He is very short-sighted by nature, right? And so you have to make tazkiyah. Part of the tazkiyah is to eliminate that short-sightedness from your nafs. It's part of the tazkiyah process, right? نعم. بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى. Subhanallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that contrary to what you think, contrary to your attitude in terms of preferring and favoring al-hayat dunya, the true meaningful life is what? Al-akhirah. Al-akhirah خير من الدنيا. خير يعني better. خير اسم تفضيل أيضا. In the Arabic language we say فلان خير من فلان. We do not say أخير. In this specific word, اسم التفضيل, when you say أجمل, أحسن, أكرم, right? In general, but when you use the word خير, this is also اسم تفضيل. والآخرة خير وأبقى, يعني والآخرة خير من الدنيا and more eternal. And it is actually the eternal life, right? أبقى, يعني it is the eternal life compared to the dunya, which is a fleeting, a fleeting period of time. So compared to the dunya, al-akhirah is خير وأبقى. Notice. إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى. What is in الصحف الأولى? إن هذا, notice, that's very important. إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى. These words, these ayat are also in the early manuscripts. إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى. These ayat are also in the early manuscripts. Which manuscripts? The manuscripts that we have revealed to Ibrahim and إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. The ulama, the mufassirin, they differ about what is that. إن هذا. هذا refers to whom? هذا in the Arabic language is اسم إشارة. So we say هذا Faruq. This is brother Faruq. هذا. Use it to gesture to someone. هذا. If you gesture to a female, you say هذه. Right? هذا. إن هذا. يعني you are referring to something that is close.
That's where my confusion is. You say haza here and then you are saying zalika al-kitab. So those are two different things.
Yes, and we explained that. ذلك refers to something that is either physically far away or elevated in its status. So al-bu'd, when you say far away, it could be physical and it could be elevated in status. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to Al-Quran al-Kareem, He says, Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ. ذَلِكَ, يعني it's very high, very far, high in its status. So ذَلِكَ could refer to someone who is far away, distance, physically far away, or if someone is basically is among the elite in his people. He's very honorable, right? You say ذَلِكَ. You do not, he might be standing in front of you and you say ذَلِكَ فُلَان. Why did you use ذَلِكَ? To indicate that he has a very high status among his people, right? And the Quran is of the highest status among all books, right? So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ. But here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses هذا because He wants to indicate to us that not all the surah, right? This is called Surat Al-Aala. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى, etc. And قد أفلح من تزكى. Notice. قد أفلح من تزكى. That's the gist. قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا, this reminder, starting with قد أفلح من تزكى up to بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة. These ayat, this discourse, the last part, right, is إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى. These ayat were revealed by me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in the early manuscripts, and those are the manuscripts of Ibrahim and Musa. So Musa alayhi salam received manuscripts, صحف إبراهيم وموسى, and Musa alayhi salam received also at-Tawrah. And al-Ajib, the amazing thing is, right, You will never find in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Torah to Musa. At-Torah, we know that if you ask any Muslim, to whom At-Torah was revealed, what's the answer? To Musa. Find this in the Quran, he cannot find it in the Quran. It's in the Sunnah and in the books of Ahl al-Kitab, right? The Sunnah tells us that the Torah was revealed to Musa. Al-Injil, the Quran tells us that Al-Injil was revealed to Isa. That is specifically mentioned. وقفينا على آثارهم بعيسى بن مريم مصدقا لما بين يديه وآتيناه الإنجيل. Al-Injil was given to Isa, specifically mentioned in the Quran. You will never find an ayah in the Quran similarly saying that about the that the Torah was given to Musa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that He revealed the Torah. إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَا التَّوْرَاةَ فِيهَا هُدًى وَنُورٌ يَحْكُمُ بِهَا النَّبِيُّونَ الَّذِينَ هَادُوا لِلَّذِينَ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that He revealed the Torah, but He does not tell us that وَآتَيْنَا مُوسَى التَّوْرَةَ, or we gave the Torah to Musa alayhi salam. This is never in the Quran. And this is something, these are things that we need to always contemplate when we read the Quran. Why is it that way? Why does He tell us that the Quran, the Injil was given to Isa specifically? In the Torah, He says, we have revealed the Torah. To whom, Ya Rab, He does not tell us, right? But we know, of course, from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and from other sources that the Torah was revealed to. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is telling us that in addition to Torah, or it could be part of Torah, either in addition to Torah, or it could be part of Torah that He revealed to Musa alayhi salam as-Suhuf, Suhuf Ibrahim. There are the manuscripts that were revealed, right, to Musa alayhi salam. He calls them here as-Suhuf. As-Suhuf, it means, pages. Pages, or manuscripts of that were revealed to Ibrahim. إن هذا في الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. Very important here, and we mentioned this topic before. Very important, and we mentioned this topic before. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He talks about Al-Quran in more than one place, in Surat Al-Shu'ara, for example, He said, وَإِنَّهُ لَفِي زُبُرِ الْأَوَّلِينَ وَإِنَّهُ لَفِي زُبُرِ الْأَوَّلِينَ وَإِنَّهُ لَتَنزِيلُ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ نَزَلَ بِهِ الرُّوحُ الْأَمِينَ. Right? وَإِنَّهُ لَفِي زُبُرِ الْأَوَّلِينَ. What is Zubur? Zubur is the plural of Zabur. Zabur is singular. Zubur is plural. And Zubra is singular. It means the piece of. When you say a piece of iron, Zubra min al-hadid. آتوني زبر الحديد. Dhul Qarnayn, he said, آتوني زبر الحديد. Zubar al-hadid, yani collect for me pieces of iron. Because he wanted to build using iron. He built the dam, the barrier. So, وَآتَيْنَا دَاوُودَ زَبُورًا. So one of these zubur was given to whom? Dawood. But the zubur are multiple, not one. وَكُلُّ شَيْءٍ فَعَلُوهُ فِي الزُّبُرِ. ولقد كتبنا في الزبور من بعد الذكر أن الأرض يرثها عبادي الصالحون. So الزبور is the plural of Zabur. And الزبور was given, one of these Zubur was given to whom? To Dawood. وآتينا داوود زبورا. يعني one of these Zubur was given to Dawood. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala included parts of the Quran, certain parts of the Quran in the old Zubur, in the old Suhuf. So He will give, as part of the revelation that came down to some of the Anbiya, He will include ayat from the Quran. And this is here. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى وَذَكَرَ اسْمَ رَبِّهِ فَصَلَّى بَلْ تُؤْثِرُونَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى إِنَّ هَذَا. Where? إِنَّ هَذَا. This is indeed was revealed to whom? Before Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, before. Because the Quran is eternal, the Quran is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? But these ayat, these specific ayat were also included in the revelation that was received by whom? By Musa and Ibrahim. What other surah tells us the same thing? Surah Al-Najm. Notice, Al-Najm, Surah Al-Najm. أولم ينبأ بما في صحف موسى وإبراهيم الذي وفى. أولم ينبأ بما في صحف موسى. Hasn't he been told about what was revealed in the manuscripts of Musa and Ibrahim? What was revealed in the manuscripts of Musa and Ibrahim? ألا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى وأن ليس للإنسان إلا ما سعى وأن سعيه سوف يرى ثم يجزاه الجزاء الأوفى. That no soul will be held accountable for the atrocity committed by another soul. ألا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Najm tells us that these ayat, which are part of the Quran, were also revealed where? In the manuscripts of Ibrahim and Musa. So the Quran, it was revealed to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It is the final book with its totality, but certain parts of it were revealed in the previous books that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called them Zubur and Suhuf. Sahifa, yani if you take this book and like tear out a few pages of it, these are called Suhuf, parts of it, parts of the book, right? وكل شيء فعلوه في الزبر إن هذا بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. And there's a hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari that I mentioned before that I remind you about. The hadith says, this is Sahih al-Bukhari, that reciting the Quran was made easy to Dawood. Yes. Reciting the Quran was made easy to Dawood. He used to order his horses to be bridled while he would recite the Quran. Yani Dawood alayhi salam, he used to come out and he say, saddle the horses for me. While the horses are saddled, he will read the Quran. What is Al-Quran here? That the hadith refers to. These are the parts of the Quran that were included in his Zabur. Right? وَإِنَّهُ يعني this Quran وَإِنَّهُ لَفِي زُبُرِ الْأَوَّلِينَ وَإِنَّهُ لَفِي زُبُرِ الْأَوَّلِينَ. Yani certain parts of the Quran were included in the books that were revealed to the earlier ones, including the Zabur that was revealed to whom? To Dawood alayhi salam. So when we know this fact, this hadith does not come as a surprise to us, right? Because this hadith, for the mustashriqeen, for the Orientalists, right? For the Orientalists, if one of the Orientalists read this hadith, say, this is nonsense. You say Sahih al-Bukhari. Sahih al-Bukhari is the highest, the most authentic book after the, and al-Bukhari is telling us that the Quran was revealed to Dawood. How come? Because, the hadith says that. No, we say, wait, we understand. We do not understand. We know from the Quran tells us that certain parts of the Quran, certain parts of the Quran were included in the books of the early ones, in the Zaburs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to early ones. Yes. Yes, of course. Ibrahim alayhi salam received a revelation in the form of suhuf. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called them suhuf. Musa alayhi salam received revelation, that is at-Tawrah, and he received also suhuf. These suhuf of Musa alayhi salam could be part of at-Tawrah and could be additional to at-Tawrah. It could be part of it, could be additional to at-Tawrah. Every messenger receives revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Nabi, the Prophet, he follows the message of a messenger. So Ibrahim alayhi salam is a messenger. Ishaq is not a messenger. Ishaq is a Nabi, a prophet, which means that he follows the message of whom? Ibrahim. Yaqub is not a messenger, he is a prophet. He follows the message of Ibrahim. Ismail is a messenger. Ismail alayhi salam is an independent messenger. So he has his own risala. Ismail alayhi, and that's why in the Quran you'll find so many times that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks Ibrahim, Ishaq, Yaqub. Most of the time, Ibrahim, Ishaq, Yaqub, because he's talking about the chain of prophethood. Ibrahim was the messenger, Ishaq was a prophet following the message of Ibrahim, Yaqub was a prophet following the message of Ibrahim. Ismail is independent. Although he was a son of Ibrahim, but he is independent. He's mentioned on his own many times, not in the chain. There are 2 times where he's mentioned with the chain, but most of the time in the Quran, Ismail is mentioned independently. Why? Because he's an independent messenger.
Ismail was messenger and Nabi?
Yes, every messenger is a prophet. Every messenger is a prophet, but not every prophet is a messenger. Right?
Messenger means Rasul.
Rasul means that he got his independent sharia, his independent message. He got his own message, right? Like Ibrahim, like Musa, like Isa, like Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Every messenger, he gets his own revelation, his own sharia. A prophet, he follows the sharia of that messenger. He does not get his own independent sharia, his own independent revelation. He follows the revelation or the sharia of a previous messenger. That's the difference between a prophet and a messenger. I want to say a few words if there are no more questions about.
Last question.
Yeah.
Since the ruh comes in 120 days in infant,
Yes.
so people who do abortion in the first trimester, first 3 months.
No, abortion should not be done except under certain stringent conditions.
No, it's not talking about the timing. When there's no ruh, it's not really a
Yes, yes. So if, first of all, abortion in general, irrespective of the time, should not be done except if it has been assessed there is a danger on the life of the mother. Right? If it's done before the 120 days, right? If someone, for example, chooses to do a abortion and this does not meet the requirement, khalas, he does not want the child, okay? And if it's done before the ruh has been injected, he is not treated as a killer. But if he or she does the abortion after the ruh has been injected, he is treated as a killer of a human soul. You see that? So the punishment that will be applied to him is the punishment of a criminal who has committed a crime against a human soul. If it was done before the ruh has been injected, he's not treated according to the ahkam of the sharia. He will be committing a sin, but he's not treated as a killer or a criminal, or واضح? So this is the distinction. So there was a question.
Last question.
Yeah.
Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Nabi and Rasul.
Yes, of course.
So he's his own Nabuwa opinion.
His own risala.
Risala,
Yes, which is the Quran,
right?
Islam.
He has to follow. But he's independent.
Independent, and his risala abrogated. So the risala that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts, he said, this is the final message. This is the message that I'm addressing all the humanity with. Okay. But there's, of course, people will make their own choices. La ikraha fi din. No one can compel anyone. You just carry the da'wah, convey the message, right? And everyone makes his own choice in the human beings. So the question is about Christmas. Same question every Christmas. Whether you can congratulate your neighbors and your co-workers. You can congratulate them about this occasion. Okay, you can tell them happy holidays, whatever. That is fine. From the Sharia point of view, it is considered part of the birr. Muslims are encouraged to be courteous to their neighbors, to their co-citizens, to their co-workers, because so you can tell them enjoy the holidays or happy holiday seasons. There's no problem whatsoever in that. But you cannot, as a Muslim, it is forbidden for you to celebrate Christmas. It is forbidden for you. You can say happy holidays, happy season, holiday season, enjoy the holidays, have a good time, whatever. You know, like even when someone dies, for example, he's not a Muslim, you can go and give him condolences. You say, may Allah give you, compensate you for your loss. May Allah make it easy for you. That's all fine, right? That's all fine. And as a matter of fact, it's not only fine, it's highly recommended by the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ used to be very courteous to his neighbors. You know the story about, the neighbor who used to, it's not the Prophet, it's Abu Hanifa, as a matter of fact. The story is about Abu Hanifa. He used to have a neighbor who used to dump trash on his door every day. And this neighbor was not a Muslim, so he used to dump his trash on the door of Abu Hanifa. So one day he came out and there was no trash on his door. So he said, what happened to that person? So they told him he was sick. So he went and visited him. He went and visited him, and the person was shocked. He said, I do this every day for you. I try to, but this is the etiquettes, the manners, the morals that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us in the Quran, that to be courteous and to be kind to our neighbors, our co-workers, our friends. There's no problem. There's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, it's highly recommended. But don't, congratulating someone on his Eid is a matter. Celebrating that Eid is a different matter. In our deen, it is forbidden for us to celebrate Christmas or celebrate New Year, etc. Yes.
Check one.
Yes.
It's right now, it's circulating very highly throughout the world.
Don't use that word. Yeah. Say happy holidays. Yes. You can say happy Christmas. The- yes. No, you are not. As a matter of fact, we know that Al-Masih was not born on the 25th, right? We know that for sure. Even the Bible tells us. The Bible says Al-Masih was born in March, not in. It's when Constantine, when he adopted Christianity, and he was like he was a pagan, Constantine, and then there was a lot of turmoil in his land between the pagans and the Christians. So as a middle way, he decided to adopt Christianity. But then he decided to modify Christianity such that to satisfy both parties. So he borrowed things from Christianity into paganism and from paganism into Christianity. And he decided, and it was actually accepted, that, the birth, let's make the solstice, the winter solstice, which is the 25th, the birthday of Al-Masih. And they say, okay, fine. So they made it. We know for sure that the birthday of Al-Masih, even according to the Bible, is not the 25th.
Sheikh, he has one question.
Sheikh, Isa alayhi salam will come back and he will be filling the job and he will also visit the Prophet's grave.
Isa will be coming back, that's for sure. That's part of the Aqidah of Islam. We know that Isa alayhi salam will be sent back down. He is not dead. Isa alayhi salam was lifted to the heavens alive, right? And he's still alive. He did not die. Because he's going to come back at the end of time, at one point in time. No one except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows when, right? And he will be coming not as a messenger or as a prophet. He's going to be coming as a follower of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's why some of the biographers of the Sahaba, they put in the biography of Isa as one of the Sahaba, radiyallahu anhum, because he will come back to rule with the Sharia of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the same deen. The deen of Isa alayhi salam, the deen of Musa alayhi salam, the deen of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and the deen of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So the hadith are recurrent. A hadith on that Isa alayhi salam will come back at the end of time. جزاكم الله خير. See you next time, inshallah.